Divine plan unfolds. 3 prophetic signs revealed despite chaos, heavenly answers await. In the quaint English village of Maplewood, a storm brewed, not just in the skies but within the hearts of its devoted parishioners. At the center of the maelstrom was Eleanor, a figure of unwavering faith, who clung tightly to hope as the church bells chimed an echo of despair. Thomas, her beloved husband, lay gravely ill, his vibrant spirit dimmed by an ailment that the doctors deemed incurable. As Eleanor sank to her knees each night, her fervent prayers pierced the heavens, pleading for divine intervention. The church stood as the village's beacon, a shelter for souls racked with worry. During a stirring community prayer service, Pastor Stephen raised his voice in powerful proclamation. Miracles are coming. 3 signs shall appear, heralding healing and renewal. The congregation erupted in awe, their hearts ignited by the pastor's words. Yet, as the days passed, doubt cast its shadow. Whispers of skepticism spread among the villagers, old grievances bubbling to the surface like an unsettled spring. Despite this turmoil, a flicker of unity emerged. Some embraced their faith, while others hesitated, torn between belief and skepticism. The first sign arrived unexpectedly at the village market. Lucinda, a woman long thought barren, announced her pregnancy, her eyes sparkling with divine joy. The news sent a ripple of excitement among the villagers, awakening dormant hopes in Eleanor's heart. Could this truly be a sign? She thought as laughter and celebration erupted around her. Yet, just as joy blossomed, the dark clouds unleashed fury upon their fields, drowning the burgeoning crops. Despair clutched at Eleanor's soul, whispering insidious doubts. What if the promise was a cruel trick? Leonard's family proposed a fundraiser to combat their growing troubles. But disaster-struck, disheartened villagers forgave hope for human effort, and their efforts crumbled in failure. Disillusionment threatened to choke the life out of their unity, staining hearts that once shone bright with faith. Then came the night of the midnight prayer vigil. It was a stillness cloaked in tension and vulnerability. As Eleanor and her neighbors gathered, hearts heavy with pleas, they felt a shift in the atmosphere. A quiet, almost palpable energy weaved through the congregation. Tears of agony turned to tears of hope as they poured their souls out, surrendering to the divine. It was in these raw moments, shrouded in sincerity and desperation, that Eleanor felt a surge of holy awakening pulse through her. In that sacred space, the flicker of a miracle ignited, revealing unexplainable healing not only in Eleanor but within the entire community. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Eleanor witnessed the healing power envelop her and others, a wave of renewed faith swept over the gathered, rekindling the flickering flames of hope. They erupted into worship, voices rising like incense toward the heavens. But hidden within their joy, anxious whispers of another storm loomed on the horizon. Finances dwindling, crops lost, and Thomas's condition uncertain. Could these miraculous signs truly sustain their faith? A profound atmosphere thickened with anticipation lingered, shrouding the village in divine mystery as they awaited the unfolding of a new chapter. What awaited them next? Only time and perhaps the heavens would tell. As dawn broke over Maplewood, a strange sense of calm settled over the village. The storm clouds that had lingered for days seemed to part, revealing a sky brushed with hues of gold and lavender. Eleanor felt a gentle warmth envelop her as she opened the window of her modest home, the faint scent of rain-soaked earth rising to greet her. It was a reminder that even in despair, beauty could emerge from chaos. Yet the stillness was deceptive, for deep within her heart, uncertainty twisted like a vine. Thomas lay in their small, shared bedroom, frail and restless. Each labored breath he took was a stark reminder of the sharp fragility of life. Eleanor whispered a prayer while brushing a strand of hair from his forehead, feeling the weight of her love lift towards heaven on wings of hope. Meanwhile, the villagers gathered in the church to discuss the aftermath of their fervent prayer vigil. Pastor Stephen, energized by the visible transformations, stood before them with a renewed sense of purpose. "Look at the signs God has given us," he exclaimed, his eyes shining like beacons. "Let us not waver in the face of adversity. A second sign is upon us." His voice stirred something deep within the hearts of the congregants. They nodded, murmurs of agreement resonating throughout the wooden pews, igniting the collective spirit. Yet not everyone felt the same upliftment. Doubts still lingered, lingering like shadows at dusk. Amelia, a longtime villager known for her skepticism, crossed her arms tightly, casting a furtive glance around the room. "What good are miracles if our lives remain in ruin?" she murmured to herself, her heart heavy with disappointment. Eleanor caught her eye and felt a pull towards the woman. Approaching her gently, Eleanor offered a sincere smile. "Amelia, don't lose heart. We must trust that something beautiful is unfolding even if it's not apparent yet." The warmth of her words stirred a flicker of something in Amelia's chest. Could it be hope? Perhaps as they shared quiet moments of vulnerability, Eleanor and Amelia felt the growing tension dissipate. Their unguarded conversations became a lifeline, gently mending ties of spirit that bound them together. At that moment, the villagers recognized that they needed one another more than ever. Unity would be their strength. The following day, news spread like wildfire through Maplewood. A local farmer, David, had miraculously found his fields alive with vibrant green shoots. The crop that had seemed lost to the flood was now showing signs of life against all odds. Whispers of a third sign began to circulate, igniting joy amongst the community and rekindling friendships once frayed by hardship and the heart of the church. As they gathered once more to celebrate this apparent miracle, the atmosphere hummed with anticipation. Voices rose in chorus, blending in praises that seemed to lift above the rafters, creating an ambience of divine invitation. In that moment, amidst laughter, tears, and shouts of joy, Eleanor closed her eyes, allowing the warmth of faith to cradle her heart. She imagined Thomas being healed, standing strong and vibrant, embracing the miracles unfolding around them. But just as the mood created an upward spiral of faith, a sudden figure appeared at the back of the church, cloaked in shadows. Eleanor's heart sank. Was this a sign of something else, something to test their newfound hope? As silence fell and eyes turned curiously toward the entrance, an unspoken question hung in the air. Could the shadows bring more turmoil, or would they reveal a new path they had not yet seen? Eleanor's heart raced. What lay ahead for her, for Thomas, for their beloved Maplewood? The mystery deepened, and with it, the understanding that the threads of divine purpose were woven tightly within the fabric of their lives. Would they embrace the unfolding journey with open hearts? Only the coming days could shine light on the profound truth that awaited. The figure at the back of the church stepped forward, revealing a young woman with bright, hopeful eyes, though marred by thin trails of tears on her cheeks. Her name was Lila, a newcomer to Maplewood. Much like Eleanor, she had found solace in the town's spirit, but her own burdens weighed heavily upon her. When the whispers quieted, she took a deep breath, transforming her vulnerability into courage. "Forgive my intrusion," she began, her voice trembling but resolute. "I have come seeking guidance. I've heard of the prayer vigil and the miracles. I believe, and yet I am struggling to understand what lies ahead for me. I've lost so much." Eleanor noticed the flicker of despair behind Lila's hopeful facade and sensed the warmth of community radiate from those gathered. Pastor Stephen stepped forward, extending his hands. "You are not alone, dear sister. The Lord sees you, and together we shall pray." As the congregation joined hands, the air thickened with faith and expectancy. They prayed over Lila, each voice weaving a tapestry of love that rose to heaven. Eleanor's heart was full, not only for Lila, but for everyone around her. They were more than a community. They were a family of seekers standing firm against the tempest. When the prayer concluded, Lila's face glowed with a light that seemed to illuminate her soul. "Thank you, I feel his presence here," she said softly, her eyes sparkling with a renewed sense of purpose. It felt as if the shadows that once clouded her heart began to dissipate, replaced with an understanding that Goddess plans often embraced more than one life at a time. As she left the church, Eleanor felt a stirring in her spirit. Lila's transformation resonated within her, reflecting the immense impact a heart can have on those around. But doubts lingered at the edges of her mind. Would the hope she had kindled for Thomas ever blossom into reality? Would they find a way to navigate the trials that lay ahead? Returning home, she found Thomas in quiet repose, breathing steady and serene for the moment. She leaned down, kissing his forehead gently, praying for wisdom and healing. Days passed, and news of the miracles kept blossoming among the villagers. The once dwindling celebration turned into a festival, igniting a collective joy that spiraled through the streets. Children laughed, the aroma of fresh bread wafted through the air, and music filled the atmosphere like a joyful offering to the heavens. Yet, amidst the happiness, Eleanor sensed that deeper trials were brewing. The shadows still lingered, waiting for their moment. One evening, as she stood on her porch gazing into the vibrant sunset, a new cloud drifted into view. Unlike before, this one was dark and looming, casting a shadow over Maplewood. The children's laughter quieted as the eerie silence settled in. Eleanor turned, heart racing. Was this a warning of hardship? Pastor Stephen, who had arrived at her door, noticed her apprehension. Eleanor, the light of hope may waver, but it will never be extinguished. Remember Lila? Just like her, we must stand resilient. We are empowered when united. She nodded, feeling a stirring within, but unease brewed beneath the surface. The way the storm gathered and brewed above felt ominous. In that moment, Eleanor grasped the truth woven through every miracle she had witnessed. When faith flickers in darkness, unseen paths can open wider than any shadow could ever encompass. As the wind began to howl and the first drops of rain hit the ground, Eleanor stood firm, ready for whatever was to come. What would this new phase bring for her and Thomas? Would the unity among the villagers shatter under pressure or build them stronger than steel? The mystery of the storm loomed, and as darkness approached, she clung to the hope that awaited in the light. The storm descended upon Maplewood with a fierce intensity, shaking the old trees and buffeting the little houses that stood together in solidarity. Eleanor felt the weight of it all pressing down on her chest. The laughter that once filled the streets was replaced by an uneasy silence, interrupted only by the howling wind and the occasional crash of thunder. She turned toward Pastor Stephen, who remained a steady figure against the chaos. "Eleanor," he said, his voice calm, yet infused with urgency. "The storms of life often come to test our faith and stir our hearts. We must gather, share our fears, and invite our Lord into this moment." Without hesitation, she nodded, the worries that had woven themselves into her thoughts momentarily untangling. There was strength in coming together. She had seen it with Lila, and now more than ever it felt crucial. "Let us call everyone to the church," she insisted, her resolve blossoming like new life after rain. They moved quickly, reaching out to neighbors and friends. One by one, villagers poured into the church, a flood of concern etched on their faces, but also a spark of shared resilience. Pastor Stephen welcomed each person, his eyes shining with the understanding that their unity was a refuge against the brewing storm. Inside, the church transformed into a sanctuary of faith. Candles flickered defiantly against the wind outside, casting a warm glow that seemed to push back the shadows drifting in. "Let us pray," Pastor Stephen urged, raising his hands toward the heavens. The congregation gathered in tight circles, a tapestry of hope and vulnerability. Eleanor stood encircled by familiar faces, neighbors who had shared meals, laughter, and now feared. A hush fell as the pastor bowed his head, and soon voices lifted up in prayer, rising above the storm's roar. Each word became a beacon, an echo of love and reliance. "Lord, protect us in this time of uncertainty. Let our hearts be strong, and our spirits unwavering." Eleanor felt the atmosphere shift, the tangible presence of the Spirit wrapping around them like a protective cloak. As they prayed, something extraordinary occurred. Soft beams of light began to pierce through the church's stained glass, illuminating the dust motes that danced lazily in the air. It was as if the heavens themselves were responding, drawing nearer, reminding them they were not alone. Suddenly, a voice broke through the prayer. It was Lila, her faith a fierce spark. Listen, while we pray, I sense something deeper stirring. God's voice is near. We need to trust him beyond our fears. A murmur of agreement rippled through the group, igniting courage. Her words hung heavy yet hopeful in the air, and wings of faith began to unfurl in the hearts present. As the last words of prayer resonated, a loud crash interrupted their sacred moment, forcing their eyes toward the windows. A large oak tree had split, but instead of smashing into the church, its branches swayed back, narrowly avoiding disaster. Gasps of astonishment escaped from the crowd. "Look," someone whispered. Eleanor's heart raced. Felt like a sign, both terrifying and miraculous. Was this divine intervention, or merely coincidence? The doubt fluttered around in her heart, but something deeper within urged for belief. "We have been granted safety in the midst of chaos," Pastor Stephen proclaimed, regaining control of the moment. "This is our call to stand firm, not just for ourselves, but for one another. Let us believe that God's plans will unfold in ways we cannot yet see." The atmosphere shifted, charged with expectation. As they picked themselves up from prayer, Eleanor could feel the bond between them tightening, their spirits intertwining like the roots of oak and vine, intertwined and strong against life's storms. What awaited them on the other side of this chaos? Would the fear transform into a deeper understanding of God's mysterious ways? The answers hovered just out of reach, tantalizing, inviting them to step into the unknown. Eleanor stood among her neighbors, her heart pulsating with the palpable energy that filled the church. The wind continued to howl outside, but inside, a sacred stillness settled over them. They were not merely individuals clinging to faith. They had become a collective force, a family bound together by shared hope. Pastor Stephen stepped forward, still grounded in the moment after the extraordinary revelation of survival, and raised his hands once more, the flickering candlelight reflecting off his earnest face. "Brothers and sisters," he called, his voice steady and strong. "In the chaos, we must seek the still small voice that guides us. Each storm is not only a challenge, it is an opportunity for our faith to deepen. God is revealing his plans even now." Eleanor felt warmth suffuse her chest, like a comforting embrace. Her fears, once like a heavy stone, seemed to lighten. The flickering lights enveloped them, illuminating not just the church but the very essence of their shared spirit. The walls, once mere stone, felt alive, pulsing with the energy of prayer and devotion. "Let us share our hearts," Pastor Stephen encouraged the congregation. "What do you feel God saying to you in this moment?" One by one, voices broke the silence, expressing their fears, hopes, and realizations. Lila spoke again, her eyes shining with clarity. "I felt the Lord saying we are being prepared for something beautiful. We must remain open to what he will reveal in time." A wave of agreement surged through the room, and Eleanor felt the stirrings of something holy taking root within her. The voices continued to rise, weaving together threads of faith that bound them closer, creating a tapestry of shared belief. "I sense a call to action," another voice chimed, a young man named Jacob. "We can be a light for others in this darkness. Perhaps we should reach out to those outside our walls, those who may not have a place of refuge." His words struck a chord in Eleanor, igniting flames of inspiration. The storm, fierce as it was, could not extinguish their light, could, instead, be the catalyst for transformation. "Yes," she called out, her voice filling with enthusiasm. "Let us organize efforts to help our neighbors. We could deliver supplies and offer prayers, anything to be a source of hope." Pastor Stephen nodded, his gaze embracing them all. Each act of kindness, however small, can create ripples that push through the storm. God can use us even when we feel vulnerable. Let us trust in his timing and his plan. As they discussed forming a plan, the storm outside raged on, but it felt distant now, muffled against the sacred energy of their gathering. Each face reflected strength, a light born from faith that stood firm against the winds of fear. Then, the moment shifted again. A bright flash illuminated the church, followed by a tremor that rattled the windows. In that instant of brilliance, Eleanor found herself holding her breath. The atmosphere thickened as if the air itself carried a message, barely contained. What was that? Someone whispered, glancing anxiously at the door. Pastor Stephen, grounding them once more, raised his voice. God speaks in wonders. Let us remain open to his signs. He is moving among us right now. Trust what he is doing in our hearts. Eleanor felt her pulse quicken. Could this be another sign? She glanced out the window, catching glimpses of glowing light dancing in the rain. It was bewildering and beautiful. The anticipation crackled in the air like static, and as they resumed their planning, Eleanor became aware that deep within her, a question lingered. Just what was God preparing them for, and how would their little acts of faith transform the looming storm into a pathway of divine possibility? And as the church glowed amidst the chaos, a sense of wonder enveloped them, a promise lingering just beyond tomorrow. Eleanor's heart raced in rhythm with the divine energy that still coursed through the room. The air was electric, buzzing as if heaven itself was weaving through their gathering. She could see the excitement mirrored in her fellow congregants, their faces lit with fervor and expectation. What could this light herald? Let us take a moment, Pastor Stephen said, his voice firm yet gentle, to seek stillness and listen for the whispers of God. He encouraged them to close their eyes, and as they did, Eleanor felt a wave of peace wash over her. As silence enveloped them, she surrendered her thoughts. Each breath grounded her deeper into that sacred space. Suddenly, a vision opened up, vivid as a tapestry before her. She saw hands reaching out, not just from within the church but from the streets beyond, from the hearts of those struggling. A burning need for connection and healing surged forth. It was a call to be present for others. Tears pricked the corners of Eleanor's eyes, her heart expanding with compassion. Lord, use me, she whispered fervently, yearning for clarity, for strength, for guidance. Are you seeing it? Lila's voice broke through her thoughts, soft yet urgent. Eleanor opened her eyes to find Lila gazing at her, as though she had caught a glimpse of something profound together. It's the people beyond our doors, Eleanor said, her voice steady despite the passion coursing through her. They need our light, our support. We can't just sit here, there's more for us to do. Yes, Jacob echoed, a note of conviction coloring his words. The entire community is within reach, and they must know they aren't alone. Pastor Stephen leaned in, his eyes twinkling with inspiration. We'll form small teams to check on our neighbors, to share not just supplies but hope. This isn't just outreach. It's our purpose. The light can't be contained. Let us also pray for those who are lost in their storms. The congregation erupted in agreement. Hands raised high, hearts calling out. They united in a chorus of intention. The storm, which had once brought fear, transformed into a source of strength as they mapped out their plans. A sudden gust of wind blew through the church, rattling windows and stirring the candles. It felt wild and beautiful, a reminder of the chaos outside, but instead of fear, a deep sense of adventure stirred within Eleanor. The flickering flames cast shadows on the walls, shadows dancing as if they, too, were eager to join in their mission. She murmured a prayer for strength, for faith, and for the courage to embrace the path ahead. Then, in an unexpected moment, a soft glow enveloped them. It shimmered like a veil, wrapping them in warmth and assurance. Several congregants gasped, their eyes widening in awe as the light filled the space. Pastor Stephen held his hands up once more. This glow and the wind, it's God's presence. He is affirming our calling. We are not alone in this. A hush fell over the group, the atmosphere thick with serenity. Eleanor felt the breath of God, and she couldn't help but smile through the tears streaming down her cheeks. What if this is just the beginning? She thought, wonder blooming deep within her. What more awaited them? What greater plans for healing, connection, and miracles were in store for their little community? Eleanor turned her gaze toward the church doors, feeling an overwhelming conviction swell in her spirit. Perhaps the adventure was more than mere outreach. It was a divine unfolding of their purpose, and as they prepared to step into the embrace of the storm, the last flicker of candlelight danced softly, inviting them into the mysteries yet to be revealed. The gathering was alive with fervor, anticipation cracking like electricity in the air. Eleanor felt her heart thump in tune with the congregation's excitement. Each face around her held a story, an ache, a hope. "Tell us what's next, Lord," she silently prayed, a stirring urgency in her spirit. Pastor Stephen's voice broke through the reverie. "We are called to be a beacon. Let us set our intentions for this outreach. We'll start with the families most affected by the storm, those who've lost power, warmth, and comfort." His words ignited a flame of purpose in Eleanor. A flurry of conversation erupted, brainstorming tidbits and suggestions filled the room. But then Eleanor's focus honed in on Lila. Lila's eyes sparkled with determination. "What if we also include some spiritual care? Maybe a small kit with some uplifting scriptures?" "Yes," Eleanor exclaimed, the idea lighting her heart further. Hope is as essential as food and water. With each suggestion, she felt more confirmed in her desire to serve. They were not merely sharing supplies. They were sharing love. They were to become a bridge of faith for those who felt cut off by despair. In that moment, Eleanor realized, they were each imbued with a piece of Goddess love, a precious gift to share. As the congregation mobilized, voices began blending into a harmonious symphony of purpose. The light around them felt brighter, the air more charged. They were stepping into a divine narrative, a story larger than themselves. The unity among them formed a tapestry woven with faith, compassion, and mission. Suddenly, the candle flames flickered, casting the room into shadow and light. It was as if the very essence of hope was dancing before them. Eleanor caught Jacob's eye. He stood with a radiant smile, his hands clasped, overwhelmed with gratitude. "What more can we do?" he asked, his voice rising with the fervor of the moment. Pastor Stephen nodded, eyes gleaming with encouragement. "We'll step out this evening, offering our hands and hearts. Let us ensure no one feels lost in the storm. Not when we are here." With that proclamation, a wave of determination swept through them. Eleanor could feel the energy in the room swell, coursing through her like a mighty river. This was a turning point. They were being called to something greater. "Remember," Pastor Stephen's voice echoed like a prophetic whisper, "this is not just our mission. It's God's. He's leading us into this unknown." A hush fell over the church as they paused for prayer, an earnest turning of their hearts toward heaven. Eleanor clasped her hands tightly, feeling the warmth of connection and fellowship around her. Every word felt like a thread stitching them closer to the divine. After prayer, they flooded the hallways, gathering supplies and creating teams. Eleanor felt an undeniable pull towards the door, almost as if a spiritual force was beckoning her beyond the threshold. As they regrouped right before heading out, the wind howled more fiercely outside, a foreboding presence in the stormy night. But beneath the storm's intensity, Eleanor found a searing tranquility. "Let us carry our light into the darkness," she said softly, and her words instilled courage into her fellow congregants. With their carts full and hearts ready, they stepped into the tempest. The air was cold against her skin, but the warmth inside her grew as they approached their first recipient, a single mother with a flickering lamp, trying to entertain her 2 children in the dimness. Eleanor knocked gently at the door, breath hitching with anticipation. What awaited them on the other side? Would they truly be God's hands and feet in the storm? In that moment of expectancy, Eleanor felt the weight of divine purpose, her heart echoing a single prayer: "Lord, let us be the light." As the door creaked open, a thrilling uncertainty loomed before them, shrouding the evening in divine mystery. Would they be ready for the call that echoed beyond the threshold? As the door swung open, a sudden warmth enveloped Eleanor and her companions, starkly contrasting with the icy gusts of wind swirling outside. The room was dimly lit, flickering like a candle's last breath, yet it cradled an atmosphere that felt alive with possibility. A small figure peered around the corner clutching a teddy bear, The child's wide eyes sparkled with innocent curiosity. Eleanor bent down slightly, meeting the child's gaze. "Hello there, sweet one. We're here to help." The mother stepped into view, her face drawn and weary, yet illuminated by a glimmer of hope. "I was just about to make some hot cocoa. Would you like to join us?" The simplicity of her offer struck Eleanor profoundly. Here they stood, ready to serve, and yet this weary soul, in the midst of her own struggle, still sought to share warmth. "Absolutely, we would love to," Eleanor responded, the words spilling forth with authenticity. Inside, there were boxes of supplies, but the real treasure lay in the connections being formed. They began unpacking their carts, placing blankets, food items, and those heartfelt kits filled with scriptures on the old wooden table. Lila moved closer to the mother, gently offering her a hand. "We've also brought some uplifting verses and prayers for you and the kids." The room grew silent, every heart beating with the shared understanding of a sacred moment unfolding. The mother's expression softened as she read the first verse aloud, words spilling over their shared burdens like rain on parched earth. "The Lord is my light and salvation. Whom shall I fear?" As her voice trembled with emotion, Eleanor felt her own heart swell. The light of divine hope flickered and shimmered in that small space. They weren't just delivering provisions. They were delivering faith like seeds being sown into fertile soil. After a brief pause, the children drew closer, curious about the visitors. Their laughter was like music in the room, filling gaps left by life's difficulties. "Can we help?" the older child asked, eyes dancing with eagerness. "Of course. You can help us make cocoa," Lila replied, gesturing towards the kitchen. The room was alive now, vibrant with joy and laughter. As they created an oasis amid the dark storm raging outside, as hot cocoa bubbled on the stove, Eleanor caught glimpses of God at work. The children's faces glowed, their earlier fears washed away in the warmth of shared laughter. The mother, too, seemed to lift, her burdens lightened by the simple act of connection and community. But even as hope blossomed in this small space, each of them silently wrestled with a deeper truth. What of the others out there? The ones who wouldn't have a warm cup, who lacked companionship in their own darkness. Eleanor's heart stirred, the urgency of the larger mission pressing heavily upon her. "We should gather clean socks and blankets for others," she mentioned softly, glancing at her comrades. "As much joy as we've shared here, this is just the beginning." The mother overheard and nodded. "Is there anything I can do to help?" Eleanor smiled, realizing that faith is a two-way street, a river of giving and receiving. "Yes, we'll need your strength and spirit," she replied. As they planned their next steps, faith ignited within Eleanor, its flame growing hotter. It was evolving into a movement that echoed divine intentions. The evening unfolded like a tapestry, stitched together with laughter, sincere prayers, and gospel sharing. But as Eleanor peeked outside, the storm raged on, fierce and relentless. The winds howled, and every dark gust served as a reminder of the chaos still surrounding them. "Lord, help us reach them all," she whispered, each word a heartfelt petition. What awaited them next? Would their outreach spill into the very heart of the storm, piercing through the cold with the light of Christ? The possibilities echoed on the wind, and Eleanor could feel the presence of something magnificent just beyond the horizon, a future filled with faith, challenge, and hope. Would they meet it head-on? The next morning, pale sunlight broke through the storm's remnants, a gentle embrace as it washed the world in amber hues. Eleanor rose early, her soul alight with anticipation. She gathered her thoughts like a bouquet of promises, knowing that today would be important as the others slowly stirred. The children bounced into the room, faces still glazed with sleep yet shimmering with a youthful energy that was infectious. "Can we go outside?" one of them chirped, cheeks flushed with excitement. Eleanor exchanged smiles with Lila and the mother. There was a joy brewing, one they could carry out into the world. "First," Eleanor said, "let us journal our hopes and dreams. Let us pour them onto paper before we step out into the physical world." The activity became an anchor for their growing faith, a solid foundation they could build upon. One by one, they shared as they wrote. Aspirations flowed out with sincerity, igniting a spark in the room. The world outside is tough, but we can make a difference, the older child declared, the weight of her words grounding everyone. Yes, we can, Eleanor affirmed, her heart swelling at this emerging hope. We can take our love and warmth to those who need it most. But we must trust God to guide us. With their journals resting beneath their pillows, they dressed for the day, bundled against the crisp air. Through the window, they watched as the remnants of the storm lay scattered, a testimony to nature's power yet now transformed into blankets of soft snow glimmering under the sun. Stepping outside, the frigid air whooshed past them, wrapping around their breaths. The world felt different. It was as if everything whispered encouragement. "What's our first stop?" Lila asked, eyes sparkling as the sun danced behind her. "Let us head to the community center," Eleanor suggested, praying silently that hope would draw others together. They made their way down the street, laughter cascading like streams even amidst the chill. Approaching the center, they saw a small gathering of individuals, some shivering but unified in their patience. Eleanor felt an old ache in her heart. Those faces reminded her of many nights spent in uncertainty. Yet today, she sensed a stirring within her. This was a holy assignment that as they drew nearer, the mother from the previous evening joined them, her face glowing with purpose. "I've been thinking," she began, "we should share what we have, gather stories from those we encounter too. Let us ask them their needs, share comforting scriptures." The words danced among them, alive with promise. Eleanor nodded. "Yes. Let us make this a community project. Stories and testimonies can create bridges." They set up a small table, vintage blankets draped over it like a welcoming cloak. As people came, they listened to the needs, jotting down details and offering warm smiles. Their engagement transformed the initially dreary atmosphere into one filled with vibrancy and warmth, each encounter infused with grace. Through playful interactions with children and heartfelt conversations with adults, they unearthed treasure beyond measure. Lives were touched, spirits uplifted in shared vulnerability. Eleanor could feel God weaving through every moment, the divine presence palpable as she recited verses that spoke of hope. Time slipped by, but the energy remained strong. With every shared story, with every hug, the warmth within the community grew. Eleanor felt a shift occur, and it ignited her intuition. Something truly magnificent awaited. As night began to drape the world again, Lila pulled Eleanor aside. "Do you think, can we go beyond this place next? To reach others who feel lost?" Eleanor's heart raced with excitement. "Yes, but we need to pray and seek understanding. What does God want us to do next? There's always something more." The wind whispered through the trees, hinting at unseen paths and adventures. Eleanor's spirit shimmered with faith. She knew they were on the precipice of something greater. What divine signs would reveal themselves next? What doors would God open for them? And as they stood in that moment, illuminated by the fading sun, the question echoed softly. What awaited them beyond this community? What mysteries would unfold under the starlit sky? The air in Maplewood felt lighter as the sun dipped low, casting warm hues across the village. Eleanor gathered her fellow congregants at their church, the heart of their community. It had been a week of miracles, revelations, and unity, but the road ahead was still riddled with uncertainty. She felt the urgency of the moment echo in her soul, as if a divine drumbeat was urging her forward. "Brothers and sisters," Pastor Stephen began, his voice filled with the weight of what they had shared, "we have witnessed his signs. Let us kneel in gratitude for the miracles he has laid before us." With bowed heads, they sank to their knees, hearts bursting with thanksgiving. Eleanor's eyes closed as she reflected on all they had experienced, the joy of new life, the healing within their community, and the tender shared burdens. Each prayer stirred a warmth radiating from the core of her being. "Lord," she whispered, "we trust you to guide our steps as we move forward." As she lifted her gaze, something beautiful awaited. Lila stood beside Pastor Stephen, her bright eyes shining with fervor. "I'm feeling his calling, stronger than ever. We're supposed to reach beyond Maplewood, to those who still suffer in darkness. We have to share our hope. The congregation's breath hitched there it was, the stirring call that pulsed through their spirits like a drumbeat of destiny. They had tasted the sweetness of divine love, and now it was their turn to share it. Eleanor's heart raced at the thought. Yes, it's exactly what we must do. We carry a light in our hearts. Let us show others the hope we have found together. Agreement rippled through the church, unified voices lifting in powerful chorus. They planned expansion of their outreach, a mission beyond what they had known. They would gather supplies, share stories, and pour love into the world, as God had poured his love into them. The next morning unfolded like a sacred dawn. The villagers gathered with renewed energy, packing baskets of food, warm blankets, and that precious collection of uplifting scriptures. The sun beamed down, illuminating their destination. The neighboring town of Harrowfield, where the storm's aftermath had left many displaced and struggling. Eleanor sat with a few volunteers in the back of the truck as they drove, her heart racing with the brilliance of possibility. She stole glances at the horizon, where fields shimmered in the gentle breeze. Upon arriving, they were met with faces worn and weary but filled with curiosity. She stepped down, holding her breath, heart pounding. "We are here to share warmth and love," Eleanor announced, her voice clear with purpose. "Together, we can mend the broken, heal the hurt, and find joy again." A ripple of hope began to blossom among the crowd. They unfurled blankets, distributed food, and shared encouraging words, creating pockets of love. As they moved forward, Eleanor noticed a small group of children watching nearby, their wide eyes a mix of shyness and wonder. "Come join us," she called, beckoning them closer. "There is enough for everyone." Slowly, hesitant steps turned into joyful laughter as they brought the children into the circle of warmth. One child, a little girl with tousled hair, gripped a tattered doll, eyes shining with hopeful innocence. "Are you really here to help?" she asked quietly. "Absolutely," Eleanor replied, kneeling before her, warmth flooding her heart. "Today you are not alone. We are family, and family helps each other." At this, the girl stepped forward and hugged Eleanor tightly. The embrace transformed into a connection that surged through Eleanor like a wave of pure love. She glanced at Lila, who had joined her side, and they both smiled. The miracle of their mission was unfolding right before them as the day stretched on. They shared stories, laughter, and tears. Each moment connected them further, love weaving through spaces that once held dread. Eleanor felt the presence of God wrapping around them, like a blanket of peace. The storm's shadows began to fade as they became beacons of light. When they had shared the last basket, a thunderous cheer erupted from their new friends. The children danced joyously, and a local man stepped forward, his eyes shining. "Thank you for reminding us that we can hope together," he said, voice thick with emotion. "We need this solidarity, this faith." Eleanor felt the warmth of his words flood her heart, tears prickling at her eyes. They had reached souls, ignited flames of faith, and emerged not just as helpers, but as transformed beings. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over their time together, Eleanor raised her voice once more. "We will be back. This is just the beginning." A murmur of agreement swelled in the crowd, echoing like joyous music. They had been touched by hope and serving hands, the bond of humanity palpable under that evening sky. On the drive back to Maplewood, the air felt lighter still, jubilant laughter spilling over the truck's bed. The villagers sang praises, voices harmonizing like a choir under the vast universe. Eleanor closed her eyes, breathing in gratitude, thankful for the journey that had unfolded and the unwavering faith that led them forward. As they arrived home, she felt a stirring within her. God was not only revealing his purpose but deepening relationships like threads of a grand tapestry. The story was not yet complete. It was still unfolding, shaping scenes of divine beauty. But as she gazed out into the star-speckled sky, Eleanor felt an urgency in her spirit. The questions returned: what more awaited them? What miracles lay beyond the horizon, waiting just for them? And in her heart, she knew the journey of faith was just beginning. If you feel the power of the story, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss our next exclusive faith stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your interaction makes a difference. Share your reactions and testimonies about the ending in the comments. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation. Only true servants of God understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.